Who is the best coach in the Sun Belt West? It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we'll get to the rankings of the Sun Belt West coaches here momentarily. Obviously, the big news that did come out over the holiday weekend was Gunnar Leje did also resign. That was out earlier in the week, but the big news is that he did end up at Southern Miss. Some people find that juicy. I find it juicy. Others do not. Obviously, it doesn't affect Georgia Southern and Marshall fans. It does affect Cajuns fans and the Cajun baseball program and Southern Miss, obviously. So Southern Miss fans like that they're rubbing it in Cajun fans' faces, and that's always fun for Southern Miss fans anyways. So that was the big juicy rumor, and it did come true. Doing one, recording it now on a Saturday due to travel issues, getting in late on Sunday. Don't expect too much news over the rest of the weekend, so we figured we'd rank the coaches. I saw somebody else do that, so let me do that. Did rank them a good 6 months ago. Let's see if they've changed. Let's see if anything in my mind has changed. I did go back and see the rankings. I did not watch the whole episode to see if my thinking changed in the rationale of that stuff. So let's just go ahead and do it. Someone's got to be bringing up the rear. And we're doing not the team. We're not ranking the teams. We're ranking the coaches. So just make sure we're understanding where we're coming from here. All right. And seventh in the Sun Belt West, we're going to go with Gerad Parker. I think Gerad Parker did a really good job last year for Troy, right? Goose Crowder went down early. I believe it's Matthew Caldwell, who, was a third string quarterback. And again, this is where I differentiate myself from other people. Excuses versus reasons. There's a reason why you struggle offensively when you're down to your third string quarterback. All right. Or you're not running the football well because your offensive line has been decimated with injuries. Okay. Or you don't have your wide receivers and you're not passing the ball well. When you're down to the third string quarterback, it's going to take the third string quarterback a few weeks to get going. And it did. And, they almost beat Arkansas State. That was a Parker situation where maybe forced something where it didn't have to. They were in position for the game tying field goal. They forced to throw into the end zone and it ended up being an interception. But they came away with some nice wins last year, right? That was kind of that game against Arkansas State was kind of the tunnel. Before we're not seeing the light in the tunnel, right? We're not even seeing the tunnel when, you're scoring 9 points in a loss to Monroe. Defensively, you're playing well, but not offensively, right? And you're losing 38-17 to Texas State. And that South Alabama game wasn't nearly as close as that 25-9 score would indicate. Then all of a sudden you go to 34-31 to Arkansas State. And now not only are we seeing the tunnel, we're seeing the light. And then you go and you beat Coastal Carolina 38-24, right? You go on the road and you beat Georgia Southern 28-20. And now at the other side of things where I'm saying, some of these scores weren't as close as this would indicate, this was closer. 51-30. Cajuns beat Troy. That was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. It was a 7-point game. A couple of turnovers and a couple of scores later, it ends up being a 21-point blowout, but it was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. All right. And then they blow out Southern Miss. So they won 3 of their last 4. I think Gerad Parker got, almost a decade worth of experience in his first year of coaching Troy football. All right. Now, Matthew Caldwell he entered the portal. Goose Crowder is going to be your starter. Let's see if they can build on that. And the West is really tough. Some people think it's tougher than I think it is. Some people have different teams up at the top than I do. We will get to those later on. But despite bringing up the rear in the rankings, someone's got to be last, I guess. I think Gerad Parker did an outstanding coaching job last year in his first year. All right. John Summerall, I certainly want to say left a mess, but I mean, he huge turnover there. All right. So I think Gerad Parker did a tremendous job at Troy. All right. Okay. Now, number 6, Bryant Vincent at ULM. I mean, had this team looking at a bowl game. They got off to a fantastic start last year. They did take it on the chin to Texas, who was the number 1 team in the country, but they beat, Jackson State and UAB handily. UAB 32-6, right? They beat Troy 13-9. Hang on defensively. Beat JMU 21-19, hammer Southern Miss 38-21, and even people at that point in time saying, well, competition is going to get tougher. Let's see what happens. All right, and it did. They lost their last 6. And some of these games were not close. Some of them were. All right. They got blown out by South Alabama. Marshall eked by. Texas State blew them out. They had Auburn. They lost by a touchdown to Arkansas State. And eventually the Cajuns did roll them 37-23. All right. Aiden Armenta played pretty well last year. And obviously, Hardy, the running back, was outstanding. Ahmad Hardy ends up going to Missouri. All right. But Bryant Vincent gave something to ULM fans to cheer about for the first time in a long time. Starting out, I know it didn't end well, but starting out winning 5 of your first 6 and 3-0 in the Sun Belt. I mean, it's been a minute since that's been the case for ULM. So I think that's a tremendous job by Bryant Vincent. He played footsies with Jacksonville State, came back. Let's see if they've gotten any more help for Aiden Armenta across that front line, protect him a little bit more, see if you get a little bit more, a little bit more offensive weapons besides a running back. And let's see who's going to replace Ahmad Hardy. Didn't want to mention that. It's very clear halfway during the season that guys like Fluff Bothwell and Hardy were going to end up in the transfer portal. You don't want to talk that into existence, but obviously when you have a chance to make 6 or 7 figures, you got to be able to take it. And whereas Fluff ends up going to Mississippi State, Ahmad went to Missouri. So we will see how those two things end up. So I think these two guys did great job. Parker and Vincent did really good jobs. I believe what was their first years at their schools. Was Parker in his second year? Maybe Parker's in his second year. Why do I think that to be the case? But, there's a lot of turnover there at Troy. Summerall's been at Troy or been at Tulane for a couple of years, right? And so maybe it all gets together. So maybe Gerad was only in his first year. So anyway, I think these two guys did a really good job in at their respective schools, despite being lower on the list. It is what it is. So, yes, Parker is going into his second season. Bryant Vincent definitely going into his second season. All right, we'll rank more of the top Sunbelt West Coast, the Sunbelt West coaches when we return and after I tell you a little bit about Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to the ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the big money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, and even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes worrying out of buying. I told you guys time and time again, I did this with opening day at the Reds. Been a minute, and I don't know if I've ever actually been to opening day at Major League Baseball. The Reds usually had that ceremoniously, the ceremonial first day, opening day of baseball, and it was a party. And I waited, got my tickets on the Game Time app, and I got a tremendous deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. I'm not sure why this feels like my camera is reversed. I'm not sure what's going on here, but nonetheless, we are now going to rank the rest of the Sunbelt West coaches, and we are going to start off with number 5, Major Applewhite from South Alabama. I thought Major did a pretty good job in his first year taking over for Kane Awamek. Obviously, a lot of turnover in talent. Tough start. Gio Lopez, they lost their first game, a little defensive and special teams breakdown. And then he had that turf toe, so they didn't play in the second game. And then they started turning things around. They had some big wins against the Cajuns. Big win. But then they had some tough losses. They lost against Georgia Southern. That was a bad loss. There's no other way of talking about it. And that was one of the things that Major had mentioned when he joined us on the podcast. We got to finish, right? Got to have that mental toughness where we got to finish. And something that we're able to talk about now following our last rankings. So having said that, if you want one coach to coach your football team in one game, this guy may be the best, because if we're looking at the statistics from last year, all right, in the bowl game, did not have Gio Lopez, did not have Fluff Bothwell. Bothwell, the leading running back in terms of yards and touchdowns, and then did not have the leading receiver in Jamal Pritchett. What happens? They go out and win the bowl game. That's impressive. All right. What's even more impressive about that is that they played like in the first bowl game. So they had all of a couple of weeks to get ready compared to a month to get ready compared to everybody else. So really impressive with what he did. It was a roller coaster of a season for sure. They are picked very highly. They do have Bishop Davenport as the quarterback. They do have, Anthony Eager could be, he has Ryan Williams type speed. He is that kind of wide receiver. He played a little bit last year, not a whole lot. And you do have some more talent there. They are being picked very highly, a little bit more higher than I would coming into the season. But I think Major Applewhite did a pretty good job last year and incredibly impressed with what happened in the bowl game. All right. Number 4, all right, is going to be Butch Jones. All right. This has been a methodical process, all right, where we have built it. And you don't see that very often these days, and seeing somebody being able to build a program. But that's what it was. All right. The program, I want to say, it was in tatters when he showed up there, but obviously there was a distraction, and that is explainable. But Butch came in there and has methodically built the program, where went to a bowl game 2 years ago, lose the bowl game, went to a bowl game this past season, win a bowl game. And we're going in with Jalen Rayner. Basically starting his third season, didn't start his freshman year, but basically was the starting quarterback, 3 games into it. I did famously ask Butch, why didn't you start him to begin the year? And I'm pretty sure they were starting, was it Oklahoma? They were starting against, and let's maybe not get the quarterback killed, first thing out. Yeah, they were starting with Oklahoma. All right. And so he came in, I think, halfway during the Stony Brook ball game, and then has taken off from there. And not to go off on a Jalen Rayner tangent, but really, I think, matured last year to where came up with some clutch victories, which they did not get the year before. Now we want to see him be more consistently great. We've talked about that. But I think Butch Jones has done a really good job with Arkansas State. I don't know if this could be his forever job, like Mike Desimo. I don't know if Power 4 teams have come calling. Maybe they're scared with what happened at Tennessee. You do a good job at Arkansas State, You're making a lot of money. You're BMOC, you're big man on campus. You don't necessarily need the pressure of, I got to win a national championship. I got to get to the playoff. I just need to contend in the Sun Belt West. Those are two very different things, right? And I happen to think Butch Jones and Arkansas State are going to contend in the Sun Belt West this year. Others do not. They're like plus 2,400 to win the Sun Belt. I'm going to lay a little bit on that. All right, number 3. All right, is G.J. Kinne, Texas State, final year in the Sun Belt. He's done nothing short of a masterful job with Texas State. They have gone to back-to-back bowl games. They have had back-to-back 8-4 regular seasons, I guess 9-win seasons all total over the last couple of years. And, to the point where they have not met expectations because he raised expectations. I guess 8-5. So they have an 8-win season in 80 in 23 and another 8-win season. So it was not 9 wins. So they've gone 7-5 and they've gotten a couple of 8-win seasons. All right. Now it's only disappointing because they raised the expectations to where everybody thought they were going to take off as the whole QB saga had the player of the year, the defending player of the year, fall into their lap. Didn't quite go that way. And the Cajun fans is going to tell you they still can't beat the Cajuns. The Cajuns won that game by a fingernail. All right. We can talk about everything that happened in that ball game, including one of the Cajuns that, had to go to the hospital. Thank goodness he was back on the plane before. It was Keon Martin. Before the plane took off. But, they literally lost that game because of a fingernail. I think Jordan McLeod's pass got tipped and ends up being an interception. But they were going to go drive down for the winning points, and a fingernail was the difference in that ball game. All right, sometimes that's tough to swallow, but that's the difference in winning and losing. G.J. Kinne's done a great job with Texas State. I do think it's going to take a minute for them to get to the level of players that they need to compete in the Pac-12-ish. Again, I don't know about Oregon State and Washington State. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I do, but, go look at Fresno State. They're pretty good, all right? Boise State, college football playoff, right? That's not going to take a hit. And we'll see if, San Diego State can turn it around. So I think it's going to take a minute for those players to arrive. You can turn that around quickly with the transfer portal. But the high school players that now he's getting for 2026, those guys aren't still not going to play for a couple of years. So we shall see. I think G.J. Kinne's done nothing less than a masterful job at Texas State, despite not living up to the expectations going into 2024. We'll see what happens in 2025. People think they're going to contend again. There's a lot of experience in that QB room, and we're going to go with the guy who's got the talent, apparently. We'll see if Brad Jackson gets that nod. But I think G.J. Kinne has done a fantastic job. All right. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about who are the best coaches in the Sun Belt. We'll do that right after I thank everybody. All right. We are over 2,200 subscribers. We're going to be close. We're going to be close to 2,500. Got to average 5 or 6 new subscribers a day. Not going to be easy. We'll see what news hits the Sun Belt. It could be quiet over the next couple of weeks. We'll try to milk what we can. Still don't think La Tech's getting in as of right now, but we shall see. But do appreciate it. All right. Knew we took a couple of days off heading into the holiday weekend, putting a couple of episodes out on Monday and Tuesday, getting it back late on Sunday, not recording it then. So recording it on Saturday and on Sunday. So we'll have episodes Monday and Tuesday for you. And if anything should happen, I'll make an addendum over those couple of days. So really do appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Don't forget about the audio podcasts on Apple and Spotify as well. Really appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thank you for all of the support. Really looking forward to getting down to New Orleans and meeting some of these guys in person and bringing you all that content towards the end of July. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Number 2 coach in the Sunbelt West is Mike Desimo. All right. That is, he's with the Raging Cajuns, obviously. And he has gone to 3 straight bowl games. Hasn't won a bowl game. Played in the Sunbelt Championship game, lost that. But Despite what Billy Napier did, lifting the program to new heights, being Sun Belt champions, that may have been the first year, certainly the second year of the portal and NIL, and a bunch of the staff members and a bunch of the players ended up going either to Florida or other places. And Desimo and the Cajuns had to start again. And the injury bugs have not really stopped since Desimo has been there. Even last year, Ben Wooldridge was heading towards the Sun Belt Player of the Year and probably would have won it if he did not get injured. He gets injured. Chandler Fields, the backup quarterback, leads the team to the Sun Belt Championship game. And then he gets hurt. And then Marshall tees off on the Cajuns. All right. Still a great job by Mike Desimo. I happen to think he is in his forever job. If he does end up winning, what I would think would have to be a couple of Sun Belt championships, maybe the Power 5 teams or Power 4 squads come calling, and he can double and, triple his salary. That would be different. But new stadium, want to see it packed. Again, if it's raining, okay. And I get it. If I'm going to be shocked if it's not, it can be 95 degrees at 7:00. But again, they got 2 late ball games to begin the year, 7 p.m. kickoffs. They really need to get off to a good start, and it needs to be full. All right. It will look full on TV. That is the good part, with the cameras being on the other side of the stadium, not looking at the student section, looking at the money section, if you will. And that will be full. And hopefully the students fill it out. And, it is full 30,000. Otherwise, it's going to be an issue. Not on Mike Desimo, but it will be an issue for another time. But I think Mike Desimo has done a fantastic job. It's got Walker Howard coming in, hometown kid. Let's see. I mean, the Cajuns some places have them winning the West. All right. Including, I believe, Phil Steele. So it will be interesting to see what happens this season. But I think Mike Desimo is the second best coach in the Sun Belt West. And the number one coach in the Sun Belt West, this will go over well in Huntington, is Charles Huff, Southern Miss. All right. He is the head coach of the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, but last year takes Marshall, who was, by the way, picked 5th to the Sun Belt East title, and then to the championship going into Louisiana and beating the Cajuns. It's got a little bit easier with Chandler Fields going down. I'm not sure that would have made the difference. Defensively, the Cajuns struggled stopping Marshall, and then when Fields went down, had no offense whatsoever. But he did a great job at Marshall, had like one down year, and led them to a championship. For whatever reason, it didn't get done, extending him. He's now at Southern Miss. Some people I think they're going to be better than people think. I'm not sure. I think they're going to be 9 wins good. I think they could beat some teams, including Mississippi State, to begin the season. Again, I've never been so hyped over a game that had 3 wins combined between the two teams. And I believe only 2 of those 3 wins are FCS. Who did, let me see who Southern Miss beat last year. Because I think Mississippi State only has the 1 win against an FCS team. Southeast Louisiana. Is that FCS? That's FCS. So that's not FBS. So there's 1 FBS win between them. So it is what it is. But I think Charles Huff has done a great job. Shtick wasn't all that liked in Huntington. It's being really loved in Hattiesburg. And again, I think Jeff Lebby's going to be on the hot seat after that ball game. I do think Southern Miss is not only going to cover, but I think they're going to win. And I think Charles Huff has done a fantastic job. And I think he's going to turn Southern Miss around very, very quickly. I'm not sure they're a 9 or 10 win team in year 1. But when you're bringing in a bunch of players from Marshall and the quarterback, most importantly, and some key defensive players, no Michael Green. I get it. No Michael Green. But you're going to be able to surprise some people. Let me see who's got see what the schedule is after Mississippi State. because then you're Jackson State and you're App State at Louisiana Tech, Jacksonville State. I mean, if you beat Mississippi State, could they start out 5-0? I mean, maybe you could get 9 wins. You could start out 5-0. I mean, at Georgia Southern is going to be tough. That could be a loss, and I'm only doing that because it's the road. You're at the Cajuns. Maybe that's a loss because it's on the road. ULM is home as a win. You're on the road at Arkansas State. That could be a loss. Texas State's at home, South Alabama and Troy. So you could really start out. You could start out 5-0. And you do have, here's the other thing, 4 of the 5 games to begin with are at home. Only Louisiana Tech, ironically, Louisiana Tech is on the road to begin with. So, all right, so those are the rankings. Again, you can go back to, I believe in January, we ranked the head coaches. Let me see if I got it quickly. I had it, but I don't anymore. Believe we ranked them in January. See if it's the same rationale. No, I went back and looked at the rankings. Nothing changed in the West. I think a couple things are going to change in the East. So we shall see on how that goes. And then I'll probably put out, I'm going to wait and put out my predictions for the Sun Belt after we meet, because it's important to know who the QBs are or maybe who the QBs aren't. That's what I want. I want to know where we stand with the QBs. It could be publicly, could be privately. I may get told something that I won't be able to share with you, but I could base my pick on that. So that's a little bit different. That's where we are. So let me know what you guys think. You might change 1 or 2 of those. You put Major Applewhite ahead of Butch Jones. I don't think you put GJ ahead of Mike Desimo, although I guess you could. He's got a couple of bowl wins. Mike does not. I think Bryant Vincent did a little bit better than Gerad Parker did. So I'm not sure there's a whole lot to disagree with, but, these days people can see the same exact thing and hear 2 completely different things. So I know that that can happen all the time. All right, especially with some of those College World Series videos that I posted. So again, thank you so much. The plan is, again, to do the East coming up as well. If there is news, I'll post some sort of addendum video, but I'm not expecting anything on Monday or Tuesday. But due to travel plans, the chances that I could get out a video done on Sunday for Monday was going to be a little ridiculous. So we're kind of putting these in the can, so to speak, just in case, and have them ready to go. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Should have full shows for the rest of the week. And we'll see if there's any news by the time Wednesday rolls around to share. All right. I mean, again, if they wanted Louisiana Tech in, they'd be in. And so I think with what Sean Fox from 97.7 was reporting, that Keith Gill, the Sun Belt commissioner, is trying to talk the holdouts to allow them to come in. What I was told right beforehand, nothing had changed. People who don't want La Tech in still don't want them in. And the term that was used is, if they do get in, it's going to be the beginning of unintended consequences, which is probably not the right term, because if someone's using that term, then they know what the consequences are going to be. Basically, other teams are going to start looking elsewhere. That's what that indicates to me. But we shall see. We still don't have a decision on La Tech, and the Sun Belt very well could just go with 13 teams for now, just to see how it all plays out down the road. All right. So again, thanks very much for tuning in. Hope you guys had a fantastic holiday weekend. I am back in Kentucky, back to work at the distillery, and looking forward to heading down to New Orleans in a couple of weeks. So we will be at Sunbelt Media Days in a few weeks. All right. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Be back again on Tuesday with the Sunbelt Eats coaches, your teams every day. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys.